in terms of the authenticity, just everybody wanted to help us get it right throughout this entire process. People read this script who were in Oakland and just surrounded it with love and support, and just felt that so much throughout the entire process.
Hello, and welcome back to The Director's Cut, brought to you by the Directors Guild of America. In this episode, 4 interconnected stories from 1980s Oakland come together in directors Ryan Fleck and Anna Boden's action comedy, Freaky Tales. The film weaves together the seemingly disparate sagas of an NBA star, a corrupt cop, a female rap duo, teenage punks, neo-Nazis, and a debt collector as they embark on a collision course in 1987 Oakland, California. In addition to Freaky Tales, Fleck and Boden's other directorial credits include the feature films Captain Marvel, Mississippi Grind, and It's Kind of a Funny Story, and episodes of Masters of the Air, Mrs. America, Billions, and The Big C. Following a screening of the film at the DGA Theater in Los Angeles, Fleck and Boden spoke with director Shaz Bennett about filming Freaky Tales. Listen on for their spoiler-filled conversation.
Hey, everybody. What a kick-ass movie. Please welcome, as we said, the writer-directors, Anna and Ryan. I'll just start us off. So it's May 10th, 1987. Sleepy Floyd scores 29 points. And Ryan, you're like 10 years old, listening to Too Short in Oakland, which I question your parents' parenting
That's
skills.
Fair.
Talk a little bit of like where did this idea come from? I've heard you guys talk about it a little bit, but.
Yeah. 87. I do remember I was in a car with my mom. I'm a big Warriors fan, and I assume there's no Lakers fans here because they were playing tonight, so they lost. But I heard this game on the radio, and like the Warriors had no business. I was a big Warrior fan. They had no business competing against the Showtime Lakers of that era. And then I heard the radio call where the radio announcer is going ridiculous. He's screaming about the way Sleepy Floyd is playing in this game. And he says Sleepy Floyd is Superman at some point. He's shouting it. And I just remember that stuck in my mind for years after that. And one day I said, I'm going to make a movie that's going to feature a chapter called The Legend of Sleepy Floyd. I didn't think that at that moment, but over the years, it sort of evolved into whatever this was.
I've heard you say that you've been pitching this for versions of this to Anna several times. I'd love to, actually, I'm curious about the other versions, but what made this version of this the greatest underdog story of all time? What happened to make you sign on and say, we can make this more universal?
He has been pitching me versions of a movie called Freaky Tales. They did not all feature a chapter called The Legend of Sleepy Floyd, actually. They did all feature like some kind of element of Too Short and some idea of like this kind of the song Freaky Tales and the idea of this Oakland in the 80s. And they were all kind of more, ordinary, traditional stories. And then over time, none of them really stuck. And I think this one, it was something about the different chapters, and the idea of like The Legend of Sleepy Floyd and that becoming a chapter. And really also Gilman, which was, we read about the actual events, which are true events that happened at Gilman, which was this actual, volunteer run, anti-racist anti-sexist, anti-violent, little punk club in Berkeley, and they were being overrun by these Nazi skinheads, and they decided to take a vote and fight back. And they actually did. And of course, we kind of like took it to the extreme and created a whole like insane, story out of it. But it became this other chapter that got added to the mix. And then it started to become this underdog story, like these underdog stories. And then the other element, I think, was like approaching the too short element of it from the women's point of view. And the song, instead of just being Freaky Tales, like Don't Fight the Feeling, which was a song on the album that was this battle rap song where these women just totally take down Too Short. And we listened to this song. He played this song for me, and I'm like, this 20-something-year-old, kid put this song on his album, had the confidence to do that, and in his 20s. And it kind of opened up, I think, something in me and made me like super interested in exploring, that kind of, what could be the story of, this, we kind of invented how this song might have come to be. So it's like our reinvention of what might have happened there.
I really like the intersections that you created, and I love the chapter version. And I would love to just hear about how you, in the script, especially like as you're going through these different chapters, did you already know what parts were going to circle back around, and where they would in what version?
No, we really wrote them as sort of 4 standalone chapters, like stories. And then it was the revision. The next draft was where we were like, okay, now how do we get these people interacting with each other a little bit more? And so that was the fun thing about the rewrite on this movie, is that we were able to sort of get the punks interacting with the Sleepy Floyd storyline. So they're instrumental in like how he takes out his revenge, and getting Danger Zone in there as well as the Clint storyline.
Well, it's such a love letter to Oakland, but also, movies and music. And, I don't know Oakland that well, but I found myself like leaving the movie and wanting to go find all this stuff. And I read that you gave all your actors playlists for each of their character roles. Did you also give them movies that they had that you wanted them to watch? And
yeah, we did make them playlists, and yeah, we shared movies with them. I think we shared some Abel Ferrara films with Pedro, and definitely some old kung fu movies with Jay. And we shared a couple of movies, documentaries with the punk kids, Decline of Western Civilization with the kids who were in that. And then also a documentary on the East Bay punk movement called Turn It Around. And that had actually a section that was completely about Gilman, and really about had a little part that was actually about the true event that ours kind of takes and twists on its head.
Yeah. And Reanimator. That's what whenever I see the green, that's the first movie that came to my mind.
Yeah. Reanimator, Scanners.
That was on there for
the
sure.
Fury, the Hollywood Shuffle. Yeah. We had a very eclectic list of movies that were inspirations for this.
Yeah, we didn't make our actors watch all of them, but
well, I think that's one of what I think is very successful in this movie is how you're taking, these references, and you're clearly paying homage to all these great movies from the 80s and 90s, but you made them your own. And so I'd love to just hear about how you took each of these stories, especially maybe in the fight sequences. They're all so uniquely focused to the story they're in. And how did you guys go about like kind of writing those and shooting them, so that they weren't complete shot for shot? But
yeah. Well, it was fairly early. Like once we wrote it, it was like, and then we started thinking about how to differentiate visually the style of the different chapters. The aspect ratio became something that we decided upon pretty quickly. We're like, oh, we should, like, the punk story should feel like a 16 millimeter 4x3. We should like treat it like with grain and treat it like it's one that shoot it handheld. But then when the fighting comes out, it becomes sort of magical. Like the blood spills outside of the aspect ratio, so do the graphics. And we wanted that to start to feel magical. Like, oh, this movie isn't exactly what it's been set up to be. It's the first point in the movie where like, oh, I think things are going to go a little haywire in this movie in a way that maybe I didn't anticipate. So that was the goal anyway, in terms of the writing and the execution of the storytelling. And then, the sort of final chapter, the violence in that, we wanted to feel like the 2:3:5 aspect ratio, the anamorphic lenses that we used to feel more like a sort of kung fu movie, like Anna alluded to earlier.
I love how, Jay also kind of brings in his basketball spirit in there.
Yeah, that was, he brought that to it. That was not in our conception for the choreography. For that, when he kind of enters the living room, so after he like jumps over the stairwell into the living room, and then he pulls off his warrior jacket and he's got that vest underneath. After, I think he takes out maybe one or two little knives, and then he just starts doing these kind of basketball-like moves. That was his idea. He was like, I want to bring a little bit of that basketball player choreography to it. And he brought up that idea with Ron, our action designer, and he got into it. And so they kind of developed that idea together. And when they showed it to us, we were like, that's so cool. We got super excited about it. But yeah, I thought that was just really brilliant.
It's so great. It's such a, talk about the production design of this. It looks like 1987 Oakland. And I know you shot in a lot of places that were the real places, but then was other things on set so that you could control it a little bit better?
We shot locations pretty much entirely in the movie. Did we? So that whole action sequence at the end, there's no reason that should have been in a stage, but it was in a house in El Cerrito. Rob, our editor, is right here in the second row. His parents lived down the street. Did we learn that your parents lived down the street from that house?
They were going to make you sandwiches.
They were going to make us sandwiches. This is Rob, our editor. There was on Treasure Island, which is the island between Oakland and San Francisco. The bridge passes through there's an island which was an old like Navy base, and there was all these old hangars. So we built a few very little sets, like the police station was on that set. We did very like minimal, but everything else was on location in this movie. The musical at the end in the credits, that was on a stage in San Rafael, but.
They were going to gut renovate that house. That house had just been bought, which is the only reason that we could do what we did to that house, because we really tore it apart. I mean, we legitimately tore that place apart. But that wallpaper was really the wallpaper. We walked into that house and we were like, that wallpaper's insane. That would be crazy to actually use that wallpaper.
You wouldn't design that, right? You wouldn't I think Patty Podesta, our production designer, was like, we got to change out this wallpaper. That's crazy. And then it was like going to be too expensive. This is an indie film. And it was going to be too expensive. So we're like, we got the flower wallpaper now. That's in the movie. Sorry, I took over. Please.
Yeah, well, no, I think I was like, I love this wallpaper. I really want this wallpaper. I was so happy that we kept that wallpaper. I didn't realize it was financial.
It was a directorial choice. Well, it works. And the costumes and the editing was incredible. I would love to just ask about casting. I mean, there's so many, obviously incredible actors in this. Some of them, when you were shooting it, weren't probably as well known as they are now, maybe, or were they? And then also you have, when I saw this at Vidiots, I happened to sit behind these two guys who were from Oakland, and like literally every 10 minutes they were like, oh, there's there. Oh, there, like they were pointing out every single star from Oakland, which I think you did a great job of of course, Too Short and Sleepy Floyd are in there, but I've heard, I don't personally know who they all are, but it feels like they just become a part of the film versus having to stop and point to every single one.
The cameos, we knew that we wanted to kind of pepper some Oakland faces throughout the movie. Did you notice Tom Hanks?
I saw that guy. I've seen him before, but he's from the Bay Area, right?
Yeah, he's from Oakland. And there's Marshawn Lynch, who's a football player. You might be.
I've heard of him.
Yeah, Tim Armstrong from Rancid and Operation Ivy. He's the actual client in the Cytopics commercial. Raphael Sadiq did the music. He's from Tony, Oakland legend. We were just trying to get as many. I think in the script at some point, we were like describing a sequence and we were talking about getting all these legends. And I think we were like, and Kamala Harris is going to show up. But she's not in the movie.
No. But I also just want to say that the guy who calls, what's that guy's name again?
Oh, Chris Mullen?
Yeah, that's actually Chris Mullen. That's his voice, guys. When Chris Mullen calls, that was actually his voice. That's cool. Just want to say.
Yeah.
And talk about getting, like Jay and Pedro and, that also, each of them were so perfectly cast for their moments.
Yeah, we worked with Jay before and just loved working with him and just knew immediately he would be perfect for this. When we were writing it, we knew he'd played basketball. He just has the right look. He has the right feel. He's so wonderful to work with. And, he always jokes when we have been doing press with him and stuff that he knew nothing about martial arts. And the first time that our stunt coordinator took a look at him and was like, we're going to need to get you a good double. We had no doubt in our mind that he would be completely amazing. And, we didn't need to get him a good double. He worked really, really hard and he did everything that you see him do in the movie. And we had no doubt that he was just a really physical guy and he would be able to kind of be a superhero. And you want to talk about Pedro?
And Pedro, The Last of Us hadn't come out yet. I knew him from the Mandalorian, of course, and Narcos. And I had never seen Game of Thrones. I didn't know about that show. Apparently it's a good show, popular show, but I had seen this little indie vampire movie called Bloodsucking Bastards, which was he just stole the movie. It's this silly vampire horror comedy, and I was just like, this guy's awesome. And we met with him on Zoom, and he loved he read the script and he loved the tone of the movie. He's the same age. We're the same age. And so he grew up in the same era of movies, and he just got all of the references and all of the tone of what we were trying to do. And so, he was like, yeah, I'm in.
That's cool. To get Tom Hanks, how did you guys arrange for it? It was one day.
It was one day, and we had met him. He produced a TV show that we worked on, and we got him the script, and we were, we're doing this thing it's about Oakland, and you're from Oakland, you got to read it. And he read it, and we're like, and it has all these allusions to him throughout the movie. And it says that he, has a cameo in it. And so he read it and he was like, all right, I'll do it. And then we just kind of held him to it. We just wouldn't let it go. And we were like dogs on a bone. And so then he did it. So.
I think, it seems like it might be easier because there's 4 different short four shorts in one movie, but scheduling that, I can imagine, is not as easy as you would think. I'd love to just hear about the process of it. Did you shoot each individual, or was it shot the whole, all over every day you were in a different world?
For the most part, so yeah, we did write it thinking, oh, it's just 4 short films, and this is gonna be easy, and but it was actually a nightmare for scheduling, especially when people start to cross into each other's stories. And we did, for the most part, shoot them separately, right? I think we started with the punk storyline, and we tried to shoot people out as much as we could, but there's crossover, so some people had to come back a few times. But yeah, what can we add to that?
Just that it would have been really easy if we'd not had any crossover between people's stories. But then the movie wouldn't have been as fun.
That's right. I think I'd love to just talk a little bit about, the Gilman story in general. That is a whole other side of music. I mean, 2 shorts, iconic now. At the time, like you said, a 20-year-old. Those 2 versions had so much music, and you had to be so true to, the fan bases of those 2 style of music. I just would love to hear your version of making sure that you were being real honest to those 2 versions.
Yeah, I think once it was 87 Oakland because of the game, and then it was like, okay, but Freaky Tales is too short, 87, and Gilman was created in 87. So it was like, and Green Day started there. There was so many bands that came out of this venue, and it was great. It was something like, I grew up in the Bay Area in Oakland and Berkeley, but I was a shy kid, and I was intimidated by that movement, even though they were nonviolent and very anti-racist, and there were all the things that I would have been excited to be a part of. I just saw punk rockers and got scared. So, but I learned about that later in life. Actually, I learned more and more about what was going on at Gilman, and then about this fight that happened against neo-Nazis. And so it was like, oh, this is a perfect chapter for this. And Patty Podesta, our production designer, and we got, she did a great job of recreating it. We recreated it in Oakland. We didn't actually shoot in the real Gilman. There's a Tesla dealership across the street from it. Now it wouldn't have worked. But
but also just in terms of the authenticity of that,
the OG Gilman people,
just everybody came out to wanted to help us get it right. It was such, and I'll just say that throughout this entire process, people read this script, who were in Oakland and who were living there, had been living there, and just really surrounded it with love and support, and just felt that so much throughout the entire process, but particularly with the punk community. Tim Armstrong read it and was like, I want Op Ivy's music in here. I want you to represent Op Ivy, and I have the band that I want to represent Op Ivy, and it's aphids, and here you go, and so it just felt like we had all this kind of support to help us get it right. And the OG Gilman crew met with our actors and talked to them about it, and had them come to the real Gilman and talk to them about their experience and what that real fight was like. And then we were like, yeah, but ours is going to be different.
Did you ever think you must have had a little psychotopics, premonition energy that we're still fighting Nazis right now?
Oh, yeah. Unfortunately, did not think that it would be quite as relevant when we made this. Thought it would not be as, a controversial bad guy to have it be, Nazis. It was more just like, yeah, this is a bad guy we can all get behind.
I think that's accurate. This is a bad guy we can all get behind. Talk about getting Too Short involved, because I mean he gets also. I think I read both of the bands got to choose who's going to play them as younger versions, right? or got to weigh in on it.
We needed the younger Too Short, and we went through the traditional like casting process, and actors were showing up and they were like trying to rap, and it was just like that's a different skill entirely. Like stage presence and musicality is very different from being able to read lines and act it. So it was just not working at all, because that's really what he has to do in the movie. He has to rap. And our producer Jelani Johnson got us in touch with Simba, who was a Bay Area rapper, and he put himself on tape singing the song, and he was just great. It was like, oh, okay, that's the guy. So I think Too Short signed off on it, but he was happy about it. He knew him, and so he was happy about him playing him. But yeah, the only thing, the funny thing about Simba is there's lines in the song that are like, they call you yuck mouth. You refuse to brush, because Too Short, when he was younger, had his teeth were really jacked up. And so Simba had nice teeth. So we had to create a prosthetic to justify that line. So he had to do it with like a piece in his mouth of messed up teeth, which was made him look a lot more like the younger Too Short.
And also is apparently challenging to rap with a big kind of prosthetic tooth thing in your mouth.
I can imagine. I thought both of the women that play Danger Zone and, just a little bit casting them. And I think, I didn't know Too Short growing up the way I wasn't 10 years old when I first got to know Too Short, but I loved what I've heard you, Anna, talk about that song, the second version, when you heard the women rapping back, like that kind of helped you create this moment of the underdog.
Yeah, right. I just saying that he always was like this, wanted to make this movie called Freaky Tales, but I was hearing Too Short music for the first time as like in my late 20s, early 30s, and I was not as like taken with his lyrics as he was as a 10-year-old boy. So it kind of, took me like a different path for me to kind of get on board with like the Freaky Tales movie. And it was, hearing this song from the women's point of view and like trying to understand like their story. And it was really interesting also hearing Too Short recently kind of talk about his experience watching the movie and realizing that he's like not the underdog in the movie. He like doesn't get to like be the underdog in this movie, even though, he associates himself with Oakland. And so he's, and he associates himself with Oakland, which is like the underdog city and all that. But his character is, not the one that wins. He's not the underdog that wins. It's like these women and yeah, casting Normani and Dominique Thorne were just so fun. Normani had not acted before, but she has such an incredible stage presence and obviously is a great performer. And I just amazed by, just how much she can kind of emote, without really like needing to say that much, just she has so much depth.
She's great, but Too Short gave his music, and he's the narrator through the whole thing. So
yeah,
he's an underdog.
Yeah, no, definitely.
It's his story.
His as his younger self.
Yeah,
as represented by Simba, doesn't get to win in this particular movie.
I think we have to wrap up soon, but I would just love to, in final thoughts, is there, is there going to be a Freaky Tales 2? Would it stay in Oakland, or would you there's freaky tales everywhere in the world.
Yeah, I had a dream for this. Like, it would be like Freaky Tales. You could do different city editions that take place in different eras, because everybody has their city, that their memories that can. The thing about Freaky Tales, it's just got to merge something sports related with music and the culture of a certain city and that history, and whoever is like passionate about their town can bring it to life. So we'll see. I don't know if enough people will see the movie to be demanding Freaky Tales.
I feel like somebody had a Freaky Tales out there.
Well, thank you so much for coming. I really enjoy this movie. I hope you guys did too. And thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for listening to another DGA Q&A. The Director's Cut is available wherever you listen to podcasts. And please share, subscribe, rate, and review. We'd love to hear your feedback, and you can help fellow film buffs find the show. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time. This podcast is produced by the Directors Guild of America.